Hello, 11th of June, time for a market review. Let's get right to the charts. So right now we can see a definite character change in the market. Maybe it's a bit too late a bit too early to proclaim that BTC is failing here, but this should be resolved with at least some support here if we don't want to lose this basing and spend at least the next few weeks to a few months basing again, because this is starting to get really fishy. When we see these properties, we still can see that from left to right the volume is still contracting, which is good. But when we taking into consideration price, right now is the moment of truth, because it could shake out below this level. It would be ideal to shake out below this level and return back, just to weed out some speculative capital, maybe some traders here trigger some stops. These could be undercut, and this is sort of the last line of resistance, because it also coincides with this slightly uptrending 50-day moving average. So if it goes below that, I think it's done. It's done, and we will, as I said before, we will need more time. So maybe not the best time to record this video, but watch these levels. They are quite important. Also, let's take a look at ETH. Now, this is what you can call weakness. Of course, you could discount it and point on overall high volatility in this base, but this is a bit too much too. So this kind of retracement definitely lacking some institutional support here. When BTC is trying to hold, although desperately, ETH for me is a bit weak, but relative to the 50-day, it is still holding, but definitely not tradable. I think it will need more time than BTC to recover, if they will hold, if they will even hold. And Solana, maybe it is showing us something that could be expected in the BTC in the near term, although there is a clear divergence here. Very weird and bifurcated market so far. But when you take into consideration all of these price pictures, BTC is still the best, the most resilient of them. Okay, so with that being said, let's transition to stocks, and oh no, let's return to the indexes first. So the indexes, as before, the QQQ is near this uptrending line, the line that defines this very long uptrend. And when QQQ reaches this line, it usually coincides with some tops, like it was most of this time, but sometimes it breaks above, as it was with the post-COVID rally, and this was the most fruitful environment here. So this is basically the theme for this market. And when we take into consideration the picture in other areas, I think my guess is that we're not definitely in the environment when you should be aggressive. Why? Because QQQ is the sole leader here. SPY is quite like it. DIA is way weaker, as is the MDY, and IWM is weak too. Why? Because we saw some relatively bad data in the employment market, and of course, right now it's a bit far-fetched to expect rate cuts, at least in the near term. So that's why we see such divergence, and I think that QQQ could be here correcting with the rest of the indices, but the only difference that we have here are the semiconductor stocks. That's why it is holding relatively better. And what's interesting, despite the weakness in the indices, we see that the rates are weak today, which adds to this very chaotic market. And of course, volatility is quite low to complicate things even further. Okay, now we're ready to see some stocks. And spoiler alert, there the situation is quite similar. We should start. This is probably the best picture in this market. Target resources, as the name points, the resource name, which could be strength in this one, could point to higher inflation, by the way, which should be announced tomorrow. First of all, let's see the relatively strong group, and here we see LRCX, AMAT, they are holding quite well. IBIT, obviously, so just recently, very weak. RVMD is a good example of what's happening underneath the indices. At best, we see some slight degradation of price pictures. So here you should see volatility contracting maybe even further. In my opinion, it was ready to break out from here right now, but it just doesn't happen. DPZ pizza, not the best name to be proud about, is holding quite well. And another name from the semi space, Micron, is holding quite well. But the most relevant picture is here. This is in APO. This is the kind of picture you get right now. As I said, at best you get this volatility around the pivot point, and at worst you get something like this: total failure. Any attempt to bring price up is met with distribution, and judging by the trading volume here, it's a clear case of institutional sales. And of course we see that right now behavior is changing, and we see some further consolidation, which is quite likely to be resolved to the downside. But once again, in this market you can expect almost all scenarios to play out. Now, once again, another potentially viable area in MedPace. We see that the price is under pressure, not even a pivot failure at this point, but could be, if tomorrow's meeting of the Fed is going to bring some bad news, this could very well resolve to the downside. Google is holding quite well, surprisingly well. well, maybe not so surprisingly, because they have AI theme as well, despite their questionable achievements in this space. Let's phrase it this way. And XPI as a semi-name could even be potentially viable here. This one to keep should be kept in the watch list. What else? Interactive brokers. Maybe you could call this a pullback buy from these levels. Not so bad, actually. Onto another name in the AI theme. We also see Arista, quite resilient. Murphy, BPMC, PRCT, and another representative example of what we see in this market. At best, these are the names with the highest relative strength, and even among them, we are seeing that these attempts to bring the price higher are met with weakness. This one is quite representative too. Crypto, not a total failure, of course, but it could be even viable if Bitcoin holds these levels, maybe. Kaspi, one of my favorites, still holding well. SPOT, a good example of behavior which is displayed by the best of stocks these days. Breakout attempt, and right now sort of getting some pressure right above the recent consolidation. What else? And that's it for today. Although there is a slight divergence between what I say about the weakness of this market and these actually resilient names, you should keep in mind that I'm focused on the best of on the names with the highest relative strength. And if you want, I just cleared my watch list this morning, and if you want to see more of a real action, then you should imagine price picture like this, or APO, because actually they are quite bad, both of them. BTSG is just bad because it is consolidating, but APO could be even worse because it is sort of tempting to not be disciplined and not to respect the stop loss, because it's back up and it's holding right now. So this is the kind of environment we're in right now. And also recently I got stopped, today morning I got stopped out of IBIT, and this basically brings my performance in this market starting with beginning of this year. I think I'm flat right now, or maybe 1 or 2% up. And this is the most valuable information to know. Breakouts aren't working. There was a brief period at the beginning of the year, but well, maybe not so brief. I missed the first part of it in January, jumped back in February, gained some results, around 7% overall, but now most of it is returned, most of it to the market. So for me, this current environment is a total wait and see, total risk control, only extremely light exposure, only testing, and only after that I will be ready to commit some real money to the market again. Obviously, it could coincide with the inflation theme playing out, or maybe we will see presidential cycle starting to be discounted as well. Historically nice period to trade stocks, but anything could happen. Anything could happen. Another war. Maybe the market is pricing something we don't know yet about. So Right now, the best thing I can tell to you is risk off. Keep cash, stay out of this market, and be extremely careful. Stay tuned.